Looks like I am live. Love it. Happy Thursday, or whenever you might be watching this. I'm gonna pull up a flyer for, I know her as Jessie, but today's guest is Jessica Syfko Ruof. I'm sorry, I should have figured that out before we started. But Jessie Ruof is what I know her as. But I also know her as I'm going to list off all these amazing things. She's the founder of Elevated Movement, and it's a life laboratory. We'll have to find out more about that. And she's the co-founder of Badass Global. And I also really got to know her through being a co-owner of F45 in Minneapolis, which also now is branched out to St. Louis Park and Edina, for those of you in the Twin Cities area. It's almost like an addictive workout for me. I love it so much. And the topic today is why movement is emotional medicine. And we're going to get into that. It's a big topic, but we're going to have fun and tell you more about what that means. All right. Let's get Jessie on. Hello. Well, thanks for joining. I was explaining to everybody, I was trying to list some of the different things that you do. I know you're this amazing entrepreneur, but then I realized that like Badass Global and the life laboratory part of Elevated Movement, there's so many things you do that I couldn't even describe. So I feel like I'm going to let you explain what that is.
Sure. Well, Elevated was created because of all these years of being an athlete, as a kid, as a collegiate athlete, and then turning into like a full-time yogi for a really, really long time. And that, I noticed that there was this kind of bridge between the two, and there was a lot of crossover, but people tended to be on one side or the other, or no sides at all. And I was blessed in my early 20s to start doing a lot of personal development work, started doing a lot of seminar work, learning about the power of the mind and leadership and success and happiness and all these things. And I had never found a place that all three of those pieces, like performance, function of the body, yoga, mindfulness, oneness, connection, and how to live your life, were all in the same place. And so, follow the, if you can't find it, create it motto. And so call it the Life Laboratory, because we believe what happens on the mat inside of your body, your thoughts, your saboteur, your victim, I overwork, I'm a punisher, all those things are happening. And so if you can train in that non-judgment space and, get uncomfortable, ask the right questions, change the plan, get into these weird places and positions and movements, you're going to learn a lot yourself. So when you walk off the mat, now life comes, has a different come from.
Yeah, well, and I had mentioned to you the other day when I had suggested maybe we have this conversation that although I am a holistic psychologist and I'm really mainly in an office setting, although I definitely also do yoga retreats and sometimes get in with clients in the aerial silk and on the mat. For the most part, I'm on more of maybe more that medical model side of it, even if it is holistic. But that there's just part of me that feels like maybe I should be a trainer because of what I know and what we both know as far as how emotions live in the body and trauma lives in the body and how transformative body work can be. And so it makes me sometimes, especially when I go to your classes, I'm like, maybe this is what I should have done rather than be in the office. And so I'm sometimes envious. But we are, I think the work we do is complementary, but it is in like sort of these different arenas. And I think that people do separate it, even though you're doing a lot of psychology and I'm doing a lot of training, but in our own worlds.
100%. Well, there's just so much crossover. All of these things that we experience in our life live in our body. And so your relationship is typically to one, right? People are very mental, right? I'm going to think, I'm going to plan, I'm going to do what I think is good and right? And then there's people that are very physical, there's people that are very emotional, but I always parlay it to this. You might speak French and say the word love, or Spanish and say the word love, or English, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, the energy is the same thing. It's just three different ways of saying it. And our body has this integration for us to really have an opportunity to learn how to thrive, right? Thrive in our life. But movement in the body, and I think that's why I put it at the center of the well-being wheel, creates movement in the mind and the emotions. It creates something for you to really tangibly connect with.
We're going to talk more, and we're going to talk about this idea of how our issues can be in our tissues. So the fact that everything we experience in our life that we may think about and go through also has corresponding ways in which our body absorbs it as well. So we have to have ways to connect with that, acknowledge it, and move it through, whether it be with different types of movement, and whether it be yoga, whether it be different types of exercise.
Yeah, just so much harder to listen and learn, right? You know, I've been to those weekend trainings where you're there 12 hours a day and there's very little movement, and you're supposed to be like, oh my God, there's a moment I'm going to receive information, take notes, and just the disconnect. And so over the years, I really learned that if somebody was messaging me in a yoga class, which was the only place there was really a lot of messaging and movement, it anchored, it helped me in a deeper place of my body. So I noticed how much more emotional growth I was receiving, how much more mental growth I was receiving. And I was getting so excited about, well, this is a way to optimize it. I don't have 18 hours a day to do all the things individually, but if I can pull them together and help myself, this is the way I feel like I've made it through my life in really hard traumas and obstacles and doubts and all the things that we deal with as humans, you know, on a path to become who we want to be.
Yeah. Well, and I do walking and talking with some of my clients. I like to give them options. It's like we can meet in person, we can do phone, we can do video. There's all these options right now, but walking is one of them that some people, once they start doing it, they love it. And there's this sense of you're moving forward physically, and sort of the flow in your brain also can be moving forward. And so my hope is that we can, you know, psychology doesn't have to be so afraid of getting off the couch, you know, getting out, you know, into the trails. I mean, and then they definitely don't want any touching. I mean, my yoga teacher hat, I might do adjustments and that sort of thing that I might not do with my psychologist hat, because that's obviously really powerful. Touch is so powerful to release from the body as well. Do you feel like you've noticed some people really have breakthroughs or deep releases when you've done some hands-on adjustments in class?
100%. And it's been a long time since I've done a lot of adjustments, you know, just sort of coming out of this COVID era. A little bit more now, but yeah, I mean, hands-on healing is incredible. And that's why I'm such an advocate of in-studio movement, is that, you know, our energy field isn't in our body. It's 5 to 6 feet around us. And so when you move with other people and you can share that energy, and then, I mean, if you get an opportunity to do a hands-on adjustment, I mean, that's powerful. Sharing and intersecting that energy, that, I mean, that in a moment, that's powerful medicine, you know?
We just had, so at in HR Zone, Azizi and I danced through boot camp to keep moving.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that means, but.
So boot camp is a big event. So it's a lot of sitting. They're saying they got up and danced so that they could. Yeah. I mean.
Oh, right.
Yeah, absolutely. The movement is really, really the key. And like, you know, I heard you were saying is that, you know, chakra systems are in the body. Yoga talks about the energy system and the emotions affiliated. You know, my background as a naturopath talks about the emotions in the organs, and then everything else, right? Emotions live through the fascia, which is every single part of your body. And so all these moments that are challenging, that take these little trauma pictures of our, you know, and then if we don't have the capacity or the willingness to sit through and let it move through, then it just goes to a deeper layer, you know? So the more, you know, conscious and intentional we can get with keeping the things moving, I just feel like the better we take on every day, no matter like how big or bad or hard it is. It's just, life can be stressful, you know, somebody can cut you off, someone can, you know, say hurt your feelings. And so it's even those little things that we are able to move forward more freely when we have a relationship with our own body, our own breath, and our own transformation.
And I definitely think that the movement piece is key, which is part of why I talk about bodyfulness, is that, you know, even the word mindfulness is so focused on the mind and the mind's kind of gaze of thoughts, and then maybe the mind's gaze of the body, but then it stops there. And I my sense is you probably would agree that you know, that awareness isn't enough, that we need more, because we need discharge practices of all different kinds. I mean, we need to feel safe enough to move the trauma through, and people have varying degrees, but that we have to have movement, and a variety of movement, and like we need a variety of food groups in order to really be healthy, and also kind of release the stress from the day to day. And when I took your class today, I mentioned to you that I really appreciated too how it was really unique, dynamic, changing movements. It wasn't like what I would typically experience at maybe either a cardio or a yoga class. And my hope is that others can also have more of that in their life too, and really appreciate all these different dynamic ways to move in their body. So like today's class, did you choreograph that and create that?
You know, it's funny, I've never choreographed a class in my life. So You know, I tend to tap the room, tend to, you know, the energy that's there, the day, the moment, and then and let it go. I've never taught a class that it was even a little bit alike. So, you know, to me, that space for me is what is coming together for us all to elevate, right? It's what do we need to do? And it's a lot of the unknown patterns, and it's creatures of habit, right? You know, athletes. Oh, I squat jump, or I power lift, right? Well, you can get really, really good in something and create a lot of weakness and resistance in a lot of the other ways. And so I'm a huge advocate of learn to do all the different things. So body can do strength, it can do cardio, it can do endurance, it can do flexibility, mobility, agility, speed. You know, there's all these ways that we get to move and in turn then think or feel through our lives. So the more places you put yourself in and practice, kind of the more diverse and the better able you are to. So I'm a really huge advocate on new, keep it exciting. Don't do, like, I was a runner for a million years, and all the isms, the hip flexors are always tight, the hams, you know, all the things that become out of alignment because you're so fixed on your one way of doing something. And I think about that as a metaphor for life, right? How we, well, this is what I do, and this is what I want to do, and this is all I do. Meanwhile, if you pan way back and you look at what it's doing in the bigger picture, you know, you're actually injuring yourself in a lot of other ways.
Well, and also what I think is so important too is and I felt an element of play as well in the class today. And play is, I talk in my book, when I talk about how we're so repressed as far as being disconnected from our bodies and feeling good in our bodies, one of the types of pleasure I talk about is just playful pleasure. We'll be really good at helping our kids have play dates, but then as adults, we don't move in our body in playful ways, even though from the beginning of time, humans have always really been singers and dancers. And I noticed even just people from other countries, and men in particular from other countries, are much more open to dance, whereas maybe American men don't feel comfortable with that. And dance is just one type of play, but I feel like there's so much to be learned, to learn about like your body and to express when you just let yourself be also like playful in it, you know, in different movements in yoga.
It's as if you are me in a different body right now, and I'm hearing myself.
Preach.
Literally preach the play. One of my favorite Sanskrit words, and it means divine play. And I'm like, at what point in life did it have to become so serious, right? Like, let loose, let go. And a lot of times, I didn't do it today for you, but you come back, I will commonly add a dance something or sort of a ridiculous move. And I always tell people, like, the more ridiculous I get, the happier I am. And when I find myself getting like, oh, you know, be serious, be a certain way, and not just let it free flow, like, I find my own enjoyment is just way, way, way down. And so I'm 100% with you, sister. Like, adults, we need more fun. We need more pleasure. We need to give ourselves permission to enjoy life, right? Not just endure.
Right. Permission to find pleasure in all different forms, whether it be taking a rest, taking a break and, you know, from work, or indulging in, you know, something either that you eat, or taking time to exercise and move. I think the hard thing with sort of playful movement in people's bodies is a lot of people are so self-conscious, because if you think of how we grow up with these messages that certain parts of our body are wrong, or certain ways of expressing our body are wrong. And so I think of classes like yours today and other ways of having expressive movement as really reclaiming our humanness in our body, in how it's intended to be. We're not meant to be sort of buttoned up and rigid like this. We're meant to we're animals. We're meant to move in animal ways, whether it be on the dance floor or in the bedroom, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that. And I think that, you know, what's unfortunate about this world that has so many opinions about what you do is that instead of, you know, sitting with someone else's opinion, even if it's different than what you did, you just change what you do. And so I talk to a lot of women in particular who are just playing in a smaller version of themselves because it's easier than playing all out and dealing with the other, you know, the shrapnel, right, of the rest of the world. You know, what I've learned in my own practice, my own body, and literally with over 150,000 people through the years, is that if you can overcome that, you know, in that mat space, right, a practice of non-judgment, a practice of be authentic to you, hard, do what makes you feel good. And you start to kind of build that relationship to yourself, that conversation of, is this actually what I want to do? And can I do it? Can I do it for 10 seconds? Right? Because it's going to start with these little small doses. I feel like just like anything, you pick up the confidence and the endurance to, you know what, I can go out on the dance floor now and, you know, wave my hands in the air and be the only person out there and not give a crap who's looking and watching. But it starts in those like small increments, that freedom piece, right? Just that's why movement is my center. Is it just helps many things in life feel better.
Right. I mean, it's a tool for also healing when we feel discomfort. I mean, I think, and that's also what a lot of like the somatic psychology that I do is to help people learn that, I mean, there's prescriptions, there's gadgets, but actually if we learn how to listen and regulate in our own body, we can also then manage the discomfort. And that's what opens us up to being able to step into creativity and play and sensuality and, you know, and dance and sort of that inner wisdom. And it's not like bodyfulness. I don't define it as feeling good in your body all the time. That's not possible. But it is really having sort of respect for the inner knowing of what it wants and what it can teach us in different ways. So, and that's what I think gets us to more of the kind of pleasure and fun in our bodies. But yeah, it's, I mean, I think I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but just as we're sort of winding down, I mean, when you talk about, if you were to describe really kind of the whole of what you do, would you say, is it like functional movement, or what is the languaging around what you do?
The reason why we didn't call it, you know, elevated fitness or elevated yoga was because I wanted to remove all the boxes and then all the understanding that people think about what lives in that box, right? We tend to live in a world where it's dance, it's yoga, high intensity, it's strength, it's cardio. And so if I said to someone, well, I'm going to teach a strength class, and they're like, well, I don't do strength. And I'm like, well, come experience it. So we removed a lot of the language. So elevated movement itself as a brand or a studio is all the things: restorative yoga, power yoga, or vinyasa yoga, movement-based yoga, strength, cardio, mobility. We do everything that your body can do in a mindful, either yoga or yoga thought and practice way. We teach you, listen to your body, high engagement. Elevated movement itself as the signature class is designed on brain-body connection. It's designed to take neurological pathways, which are in your brain, and reconnect them to your body so that every movement that you do is better, right? So your muscles are firing, you have full range of motion. You're not perpetuating like a negative thought or you know, because that's just equally as debilitating as a bad pattern long-term, right? A loop of something inside of you. And so that's what the design of elevated movement is. It's functional movement, it's yoga, it's mobility, but it's really about the science of how your brain and your body work for optimal all movement.
Yeah. Well, and to really kind of bring that beyond the individual, so my work being at the intersection of mind body connection and relationship and intimacy issues, I know personally that when two people in some sort of whatever partnership, lovers, whatever we want to call them, go to classes together or move their bodies together, whether it be on the trail or in a yoga studio, there is also just such a connection, and that energetic connection. You're in your own body, you're sharing it next to them. And so do you ever feel like there's a way in which your classes, like people, either they meet somebody new because they're a little more open and raw in their body, or maybe they're the couples that go to your classes end up having kind of a more healthier, robust sex life?
Well, I will ask them about this specific of a more robust sex life. But
tell them that Rachel's doing a study.
I think they would be excited about it. And what I'll tell you about my people is that they would 100% answer that question. You know, I do think that coming to my class, one of the benefits is that you just have an authentic and a higher energy like output. And so what you end up feeling is you meet great friends, your relationships are bonded, you know, you're going through something together. One of the things that I think one of the greatest compliments I can get as a movement person is you become the reminder in my head when I'm in a challenging time in my day or my career, my relationship. You remind me of my power or my strength or my confidence, or that I can get through it, right? And it's not, hey, look at all the six packs and everybody's losing weight. That is never my message, and it never will be my message. I'm about the energy that it feels like to be the perfect you that you are. I want to help people with that space. So I agree that you come in there, you're going to build great relationships. You're going to have amazing conversations. you're going to have some inappropriate conversations because it's super fun to just be like, yeah, I don't know. People will come in and say, yeah, I'm sore because I had sex last night. And I'm like, rock and roll. Like, you know.
Thanks for sharing. I love it. Those are the folks those probably aren't the people that need to read my book, but they can still benefit from it. But yeah.
And well, really sell your book in the studio, because what you're talking about and how from that psychological standpoint you're teaching body, and I love bodyfulness. Like, to me, that's such a more holistic way of seeing it. People are going to eat it. I know they're going to eat it for breakfast. They're going to love it. So I'm super excited about being able to share what you're talking about and all that incredible information with our community, because I know they're hungry for it. I know they are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing more bodyfulness and different movement pleasures into my life. And yeah, I'll be at more of these classes.
I love it.
So Elevated Movement is in Edina.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only location? Just wanted to check.
So every class is virtual as well. So we've got members all over the country, which is super fun.
Yeah, that's right. I saw the virtual piece. That's so great that now we have that as an accepted option too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, love you. Thank you so much for this. And I'll see you back in one of your classes.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. See you later.
Okay. Bye.